An extremely delusional love triangle between two women and a loving pastor caused hatred and jealousy and ultimately led to the worst murder in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. This is the bizarre story of Mary Jane Fonda. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on July 5th, 1942, Mary Jane Fonda was brought into the world by her parents, Alice and Edward Fonda. Both Mary and her brother grew up in West Philadelphia, where their father worked as a machine operator and their mother was a proofreader. Throughout her childhood, Mary struggled with a variety of emotional issues. When Fonda was 8 years old, her family made the decision to purchase a second residence in Springfield Township. This is a small community located inside Bucks County, Pennsylvania. She went to high school in Philadelphia, but she struggled academically due to the mental challenges she was dealing with at the time. After making a failed attempt to kill herself as a child by taking an overdose of chlorohydrate, she was sent to a mental hospital for 1 month. Soon after that, Mary stopped going to high school because she was having an extremely hard time engaging in social interactions. She worked various jobs during her early adulthood and didn't start dating until her late 30s, and she never formed any serious romantic relationship. Mary relocated back to Springfield Township in the year of 1987 when she was 45 years old in order to take care of her aging parents. Her mother suffered from circulation issues and needed to have a leg removed in 1992. Nevertheless, the operation was unsuccessful and she passed away after spending 4 months in a coma. Mary's father, Edward, fell into a deep depression after the passing of his wife, which led to an increase in the frequency of their arguments. Mary claimed at a later time that their relationship had become completely broken to the point where they couldn't repair it. Edward Fonda, who was 80 years old at the time, vanished from home in Springfield Township on August 26, 1993. Mary claimed that she had been lying in bed when she had heard the front door open that morning, and she assumed that her father had gotten up to collect the newspaper. She went back to sleep, and when she woke up at approximately 11 in the morning, she discovered that her father had vanished. She tried to relocate her father with the help of neighbors and by contacting the authorities, but she was unsuccessful. Mary's claims that her father had gone missing were viewed with suspicion by the police in the township because the elderly man had difficulty moving around on his own, lacked access to his medication, and he did not have any money. Officer Kimberly Trio, who worked for the police department in Springfield Township, was in charge of leading the investigation. During one of the interviews that took place in Mary's home, Trio discovered a bucket that was full of water and had reddish color to it, as well as several towels and a mop. In addition, she actually discovered the dead body of a dog that had been wrapped in plastic and placed inside of Mary's freezer. Initially, Mary was willing to assist the authorities in their investigation, but she eventually cut all communication with them after she became aware that Trio was attempting to force a confession out of her. According to Mary, for many years, the embarrassing effort to fit in, emotional isolation, and harsh rejection by church members, it buzzed in her ears like white noise, as she claims. As the year 2008 came near, Mary promised herself that from that point on, her life would be entirely different. Maybe somehow she could start over and be a new person. Instead, the sound that she referred to as her white noise became extremely louder. Soon after, she was no longer able to keep her position as a home health care assistant. Her relationship with her brother, who she lived with, became very tense, and the fact that her car was constantly in need of maintenance became a financial burden for her. Around the same time, a woman by the name of Rhonda Smith, who had been a member of her church for the previous 2 years, was coping with her own personal issues and requested the assistance of other members. Mary watched from the shadows as the younger woman received support and care from the same members of the church that Mary had spent years attempting to connect with. At this point, Mary was also starting to lose memory of time and events and couldn't recall portions of her day. She stated that as her blackouts became more frequent and severe, she called her psychiatrist because she believed that the combination of antidepressant and anxiety medicine that she had been prescribed needed to be altered. But he was away on vacation during that week, and she was told that she would need to be patient. The white noise in her head became louder on January 22nd, 2008, and it began to tell her that she was an outcast. She awoke to find herself sitting on a park bench. She had again experienced what appeared to be a blackout earlier that morning. She did not know why she was there or how she got there, despite the fact that she had been there for several hours. That evening, she participated in church choir rehearsal, but as she was leaving, Pastor Gregory Shreves raced past her on his way out the front door. It appeared as though he was attempting to avoid her. She called out to him and even joked that he should slow down because he still had a head cold, but he did not reply to her calls or jokes. She claimed that the pastor, the only friend that she claimed to have, caused her to feel hurt and confused. When walking to her vehicle, she looked up and noticed the lights on in the church room located upstairs. She also noticed that a number of cars were parked in the parking lot. She assumed that since Rhonda Smith was there, the event must be a birthday party for her, another social function that she wasn't invited to at all. There was no birthday party celebration at all. This was just another assumption that she was excluded from the events. Mary expressed regret for going into the church that day, stating that it's the last memory she has of the events on that fateful day. Rhonda Smith, age 42, was volunteering as a secretary in the office of their church in Springfield Township on 23rd of January 2008 when she was shot twice in the head at point-blank range. Rhonda Smith passed away at the hospital after having her life support turned off. After the pastor of the church informed the authorities about Mary Fonder's history of inappropriate behavior, which included leaving rambling voicemail messages for him and placing food in his kitchen without his knowledge or consent, the authorities began to look into Mary Fonder as a suspect early on in the investigation. Mary allegedly called the church on the day of the murder and learned that Rhonda Smith would be working alone in the office of the church on the day in question. This information was provided to the police and investigators. After shooting Rhonda Smith, Mary maintained an appointment at the hair salon to have her natural hair cleaned and groomed. She also left her wig at the hair salon, where the authorities were able to claim it later. Mary was known to frequently wear wigs, so this tied her to the murder even more. Mary was taken into custody for the murder of Rhonda Smith on April 1st, 2008, a few weeks after fishermen discovered a handgun with a .38 caliber on the edge of a lake in the area. Mary had already admitted to having purchased and registered a .38 caliber handgun before being questioned by the police about it. She claimed to have tossed the handgun into a lake in the year of 1994, but she provided the police with two different explanations for why she had done so. The results of forensic testing indicated that the gun and ammo that were recovered had been placed in that lake much more recently, which goes against Mary's claims. Indeed, Mary was the owner of the gun that was found, and she was the one who used it to kill Rhonda Smith. She claims that she has no memory of shooting Rhonda, but when all the evidence is considered together, she admits that it must have been her. The trial of Mary got underway on October 21st, 2008. The prosecution argued that Mary, who had been a part of the church for the past 14 years, carried feelings of hatred towards Rhonda Smith, a new member who had gotten sympathetic attention and some financial assistance from the pastor and other members of the church. Mary's attorney argued in front of the judge that his client was not there at the time of the crime and was not responsible for shooting Rhonda Smith. Also, Mary's attorney suggested that it was possible that Rhonda Smith killed herself and that she may have been murdered by a jealous spouse or lover, or that she was murdered by some other third party. On October 30th, 2008, a jury found Mary guilty of first-degree murder and possession of a weapon of crime. The charges stemmed from an incident that occurred in 2008. On December 5th, 2008, a judge handed her a sentence that would send her to prison for the rest of her life. Mary gave the following comment regarding her sentence during her hearing. "I did not kill Rhonda Smith. I thought she was a lovely girl, and I certainly wasn't jealous of this woman for any reason. I'm so sorry she's gone, but in the same respect, I will be gone too. I'm the second person in the church to be murdered by the system." The murder that took place inside the walls of the church led to one of the most bizarre murder investigations in recent Bucks County history. Jealousy over a love triangle that Mary thought existed between two problematic women and a charming pastor was described as the motive for the murder by the police, the prosecutors, the newspaper headlines, and even an episode of Dateline on NBC. Mary had a romantic interest in Pastor Shreves and became enraged when he and other members of the church paid attention to Rhonda Smith. This triggered her jealousy. Mary insists that she did not feel jealous of Smith at any time, yet is still under the impression that the pastor had romantic intentions towards Rhonda and considers certain elements of their conversations to be flirty and mainly on his part. Mary claimed that the pastor, before entering a room, would look around to see if Rhonda was there, a behavior that she perceived as evidence of pastor's interest in Rhonda. Pastor Shreves has denied that he has any romantic interest in either woman or any kind of contact with them. Even when he believed that Mary was growing obsessed with him, he reported it to the leaders of the church. She was requested to leave the church, but she did not comply with the request. Mary was permitted to stay at the church on Sunday mornings despite the fact that most of the members likely found her to be overly chatty, extremely nosy, and just plain obnoxious. When news spoke to Rhonda Smith's parents, you can imagine the shock they felt when they learned that the woman arrested for their daughter's murder was not only a member of their church, but she had also been in their house and was present at a church lunch with them earlier this afternoon. The woman was Mary Fonder, and she was 65 years old. Mary Jane Fonder will be arrested for the murder of Jim and Dorothy Smith's daughter only a few hours after having lunch with them. When Rhonda was killed, it is said that Fonder even started going to the Smith family's house to visit them there. Mary Fonder passed away on June 4, 2018, at the age of 75, from cardiac arrest at a state correctional institution in Pennsylvania. At the time of her death, she was serving a life sentence for the murder of fellow church member Rhonda Smith, which was motivated again by her jealousy of Smith. In the year 1993, she was also the primary person of interest in the investigation and disappearance of her father, Edward Fonder. Mary Jane Fonder told reporters a few days after her father went missing that he was a complicated man who at times could be caring, considerate, and content to live alone, but other times he could be bad-tempered, opinionated, and frightening. Yet, she insisted she didn't kill him. For several years after her father's death was officially recorded, Fonder continued to receive pension payments in his name. Fonder was the oldest woman ever convicted of murder in Bucks County. And this will conclude the crazy story of Mary Jane Fonder. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this short documentary. Thanks, guys.